All right, what's up, gang? Welcome to another episode of the G.R.I.N.D.cast. Get ready, it's a new day, and I have my friend Gregg Rudolph here in the house. And Gregg, today I think first of all, thanks for joining us, brother.
Excited to be here.
And we're gonna have some fun today. Gregg, maybe if you could start us off with a little bit of your journey in life, and guys listening out there, guys and gals, if you don't know Gregg. Gregg's from the Pittsburgh area. Ended up being a business owner at an early age, hence the nickname. Eventually he would get the Lumberjack. Owned his own business. Ended up becoming a professional fighter. Did MMA and boxing, both of which he retired as of now, undefeated. And other than me seeing Gia beat him up sometimes, his daughter, what's Gia, 13?
Yeah, 13 years old.
13 years old, and today Gia is actually celebrating 6 years cancer-free, 6 years from her last chemotherapy treatment. Gregg's daughter, recently in the last year, my man had G2, little Gregg, so he has one boy, one girl. We bumped into each other accidentally, and he ended up being in the business with us and ended up being one of our top general managers here within a very short period of time. He's been here less than a year and a half and has done very, very well for himself. Was Rookie of the Year last year, co-Rookie of the Year with Steve Dell in our business, who was also a Division I football coach before he came to the organization. Mm-hmm. So that's just a brief synopsis and summary of Gregg. Gregg, why don't you just tell us a little bit more about yourself, your journey in sports and in business, and we'll go from there.
Cool. Yep. So my journey, started way back. I'm 37 years old now, so a little bit older. But out of high school, I always knew I wanted to own a business. I love sports. Grew up playing basketball, football, baseball, wrestling, golf. You name it, I did it. I was really good at baseball, really good at wrestling, really good at pretty much everything sports related. So I went to college, went to Clarion University. Only did that for about a year and a half. Decided, college really wasn't for me. Knew I didn't need, a college education to really own a business. It's more self-motivation and drive there. So came home age of 20 and started my first business. I got a loan for $75,000 that my parents had to co-sign for, so thanks mom and dad. So I started to buy some tree equipment, so chippers, stump grinders, trucks, bucket trucks, pickup trucks, anything I get my hands on, a bunch of chainsaws, and I started cutting down trees. And I ended
20 years old.
Yeah. So I ended up paying the $75,000 back halfway through the first year. Ended up grossing, I think, almost a little over $250,000 my first calendar year as 20 years old. And it just started growing from there. Had a little girl, when she was 3.5, she was diagnosed with leukemia. At this time, I was doing really well, and everything got put on hold. The construction industry is different because it's really hands-on. If you're not there doing the work, it's hard to find people to do it and trust them with heavy equipment, and it's very dangerous.
Yep.
Being up in the air, or saws. So you really can't trust anybody to do it. So we lived in Children's Hospital for months at a time, 3-6 months. She lost the ability to walk from chemo treatments and things like that. So it was pretty bad with strokes and things. But fast forward, 6-9 months, when you have a big business, you have a big nut to crack every month because you have loans.
Expenses.
You have, equipment you're paying for, $250,000 machines that are sitting in the woods, things like that. So, it became to a point where it wasn't working. I couldn't pay the bills and not work because I wouldn't leave her side. So, make a long story short, during that process, I actually had an employee try suing me for like $500,000 because he fell out of a tree, all junked up on pills and God knows what else. But I ended up beating that in court. But it took almost a year of litigation and lawyer fees,
money,
and I just, it was just time for me to hang that up and move on. So I filed Chapter 11 on that business. It was really hard to do because I love doing it and I made a lot of money doing it. But went from making tons of money a month, paying myself $20,000 a month as a salary,
20s. Yep.
And then going down to making zero, like literally zero. And I didn't do anything for a couple months because I didn't have to. I had the money put away. But then after 3, 4, 5 months of still paying the mortgage, I still had a bunch of cars I was paying for, taxes. I mean, everything kept creeping up. I'm like, oh shit, man, my nest egg's going down. So then I started to hit the panic button. Then that was a rough time in my life because I was very angry and I got in a lot of trouble, and
it's a lot going on in early 20s.
It is, and I was a kid. My relationship with
kid has
it was just a nightmare
business, for me. That's a lot to handle. Early
I was
20s.
lost. I was lost.
Yep.
And all this whole time, we were going through the treatments and all this, and I'm thinking, this is so unfair, and it's a helpless feeling because your kids, you don't want anything to happen to your kids.
It's worse than happening to
even
you.
other people's kids.
It's worse than happening.
I mean, like
it's a big thing once I became a parent.
Yeah,
is I
children
look at
shouldn't have
from
to
that
go
angle.
through anything like that.
Yep.
But I actually got introduced. At this time, I was getting in a lot of trouble, and I had a bunch of friends that were in the fighting industry because I also owned a clothing line, and we sponsored UFC fighters and local pros here in the circuit, in the Ohio Valley region. So I knew a lot of people that fought. They'd always like, man, you got to come into the gym. You're built like a brick shit house. You know what I mean? You can fight, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't want to go fight. What are you talking about? So then I had the opportunity to own a gym. At this time, it was called Fight Club Pittsburgh. It was owned by the name of a guy, Mick Morrow, and Melissa. Great people, still great friends with them. But Mick built one of the best MMA gyms, in my opinion, in the tri-state area, even on this side of the country. I mean, he has 2 custom-built octagons in there, raised boxing ring, probably 3,000 square foot of mat space, a fitness room, and he has a successful business doing signs. And this was kind of like his hobby. And he approached me and said, would you want to take this gym over? And I'm like, man, I don't know. It seems like a lot of work. But literally, gave it to me for $1. Just took over the bills, took over the rent, took over the payroll, all that great stuff. So I'm like, fuck it, so I'll do it. So I ended up doing it. I mean, I wasn't doing anything anyways.
Yep.
So we did that. A couple of my buddies were actually already working there. I was training with. They're all professionals. So then I started to, maybe I can fight a little bit. So then I took my first MMA fight after probably doing 6 to 9 months of training and actually working up the courage to actually do it in front of people, not in the gym. Then I tore my bicep. So then I had to wait another couple months to fight, had a fight scheduled, and I'm getting older. I'm in my late 20s now. So I'm like, man, my timeline's really running out here. So got my first fight, ended up knocking the dude out in like, I think 43 seconds. I broke his jaw in the first round, and it just took off from there. I had that feeling.
Loved it.
I was addicted.
Yep.
Like, that's all I wanted to do was fight. Yep. Once you get that adrenaline rush, you don't sleep for 3 days, and it was fun. So I took that, all the way up. I had like 6 or 7 amateur fights, boxing and MMA, and then decided I was going to turn pro and get paid to do it. And then here I am now, 3-0 as a pro, and accomplished more than I thought I ever would with that. But I'm older in life and figured it was time to hang up the towel, and you keep me so busy here that I can't do both anyways. So
No doubt. No
You
doubt.
know?
You like it. You like putting more on your plate.
You got to concentrate on your strengths.
So let me let's rewind back a little bit. Something that you said early on stuck out to me was that you knew that, college wasn't really something for you.
Right.
And so this is a big, I don't want to say debate, but this is a big conversation, especially right now in America.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to give my input on it and hear some of your input on it. And so I've heard, I think college is good for some folks, and I think it's useless for others. And you're talking, as I say this, I went to college. I graduated with a business degree from Mercyhurst University. Played football there. Started 4 years at defensive back. Was a captain. Had a great experience. But when I look back on it, what it helped me do is I matured a little bit.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't on scholarship, I'm thinking, man, for $150,000, that's a hell of a maturity lesson.
Right. Yeah.
And the majority of the experience, true business experience that I've gotten, has been from on the job and from mentors in books in self-development.
Right.
And the right books that you could buy. I think if I gave you 20 books and you dug into them all and gave yourself 5 months to dig into 20 books, I could give you 20 books that probably would cost you $400 total, and that would be the best degree that you could possibly get if you could mix that with a little bit of experience.
I agree.
And then having the right mentors, so for me, when I get into this and people ask me my opinion, it depends on the individual. It depends on what the person is. But if you show me somebody that is an entrepreneur by nature, you're 20 years old and there's even behind the scene things, maybe we'll go Joe Rogan on them and talk about it one time, me and you. But you have this entrepreneurial spirit, as did I. And so when I see that in people, I'm thinking, man, if you're not going on scholarship or you're not going to play a sport or understanding I'm going for the experience, but the experience is going to cost me $150,000.
Yeah.
I mean, I could send you on a great experience for 20.
Right.
But when I see somebody doing that or asking me, should I not do that? Here's the things that I go to. If this person has a business mind and they want to be a business owner and an entrepreneur, I told a kid the other day that's young, I said, I think you're going to be a great leader and a hell of an entrepreneur, but I think you'd be a horrible employee. I don't think you'd be a very good employee at all, man. You just got that. I got to be running stuff. I got to be leading stuff. You have that in you. I have that in me. And so when I find somebody like that, the way I look at it is, if somebody comes out at 18 years old and they have 4 years to work, like Tristan, okay, so he don't have no debt, so he doesn't go into the hole at all.
Right.
He gets 4 years of on-the-job experience. That's another thing. A lot of people out there trying to tell somebody what to do in business haven't ever rocked any major businesses.
Right.
I'd rather learn basketball from Jordan, from LeBron.
Why take advice from someone that you wouldn't rather trade
places with?
You know what I mean?
Right?
Exactly.
So we got this person that goes 4 years. They get experience for 4 years. They learn from people that are doing the job. And let's say, Tristan will make $150,000 at 20 years old this year. Yeah. But let's say they're not Tristan and they make 35, 40. And they go $40,000 for 4 years. You went up 160. You would have went down 160. So now you're at 320. You gained 320. You went up 160, but you could have went in the whole 160. So somebody that went in the whole 160, you're up 160. There's a $320,000 gap. Yeah. If you go now, they got to come out and get experience.
Right.
At this point, you're already running stuff. You're already leading stuff. What's your thought process on that whole experience? Because I have 2 kids. You have 2 kids. Yeah. One day they're going to be given an opportunity to possibly go to college. My take on it is I got to see what their skill sets are, what they like, what they believe in.
Right.
But I won't be forcing them. I'll support them if they want to. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. But I won't be forcing. I won't be the parent that's like, you're a failure. If you don't go to college.
I mean, me personally, I'm gonna force my son to do a few sports that I think will get him further in life, just because of the discipline aspect.
What are those sports?
Wrestling, jiu-jitsu. I think wrestling is probably the #1 sport to teach your kid discipline. There's
were you in here when I taped the last podcast? Were you listening in? That's exactly what I said, and I didn't wrestle in high school. I got into it later on in life. But that's the first thing I said.
Wrestling in high school is no joke. You're football's great.
Yep.
I mean,
Teaches
I love
you team
football.
atmosphere.
Yeah, more of a team camaraderie, and you could be the, you know what I mean, like the big captain quarterback and all that fun shit.
Yep.
But you know, when I was in high school, football players weren't there at 5:30 in the morning running the streets of Pittsburgh.
It's a grind.
And then running after
School.
Cutting weight. I mean, it's no joke.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's hand-to-hand combat.
Yep.
Whether you look at it like that or not,
You're the best starting point to start from.
Right. It's one-on-one. You have a team, you have a wrestling team, you have a coach, but at the end of the day, you're out there alone. You have to perform. You know, in football, you have a team. Also, you're out there on the field with them. You have somebody setting a block for you. You have somebody throwing you a ball. You have somebody, helping you out.
Yep.
Of course, there's a lot of, if you don't perform, you're not going to play. But,
right.
I mean, wrestling, it's one-on-one.
Yep.
If the spotlight's on you, it's a lot of discipline. It teaches you a lot.
Yep. Where I started talking about that when I recently taped was, I told people that, you know, sometimes people will come out and say, well, I don't want to get into sales.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, man, the example and analogy I gave is, man, for my son, if there's anywhere close to an inkling that he's aggressive, which he's already biting and poking eyes out, you know what I mean? And he's 2. He's going to start off wrestling too.
Yeah.
I think that's a good base, you know, on the ground, starting how to wrestle. That's a great base for things. I think there's, you know, gymnastics and things that kids can do for their feet.
Balance.
And stuff. In business and in life, I feel like more than half the time, probably 75% of the time, if you show me anything running, I'm going to show you somebody that needs to sell. For example, a lawyer, an attorney, they need to sell their case.
Every
and
day.
then they need to sell people to do something with them.
Yeah.
Chiropractor. It's one thing to know how to do the deal. It's another thing to sell people, to get them to believe in you and to run a business. I think the majority of, you know, even a youth program, you know, that I'm doing Friday. What are we doing Friday?
We're going to the cocktail party, yeah.
We got a fundraiser.
So you
know,
gotta
2 weeks later, I got another fundraiser for 2 vans with Jim Tressel and all that. And then couple months down the road, I got another one. I'm always selling people on trying to invest into our youth and invest into our future. So I'm back to sales again. Even if you want to run a youth program, you're going to be selling. Yeah. If you're going to run a gym, you're going to be selling people on the membership, selling people. Yep. The great base, you know, for me, if my kid wants to do something different than that, I would want them to get 2 years of sales experience under their belt, because you're going to need it in your marriage. You're going to need it in everything, right? You're always selling. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I mean, if you can sell, you can do anything, literally anything. I think it's a good tool it's a vehicle to get you to the next place, you know, just like anything else.
What things stick out to you that help you or would help someone in sports that translates into business? It doesn't necessarily have to be specifically the business that we're in together, but in business in general, because you own a supplement, you know, company. Anybody looking for some supplements out there, by the way, American Warrior Nutrition, we got pre-workout, we got protein, we got all that, all tons of stuff. You can look up Gregg's company. But what things in sports would you think translate over into this field or in business in general that you've learned?
I'd say discipline in scheduling. You know, with anything, you're going to have discipline. So going to practice at 6:30 in the morning or going after school, you know, training, you know, if you're training 2-3 times a day, your scheduling is going to come into a conflict, right? You have to schedule everybody that works for me here, you know, that works with us. First thing I want to see is I want to see their schedule mastered. When are you going to eat? When are you going to cook? When are you going to do your laundry? When are you going to spend time with your kids, your wife, date nights? When are you going to go out in the field? I mean, you have to have everything scheduled, right? Once you have your schedule down, now you can go to work. Now you know what you're doing. So, you know, that relates to sports as well.
Got to have the schedule
I mean? Like,
down.
when are you going to
Even
train?
Practice. You know, I remember playing football and coming out to practice, and from 2 to 2:10 we had this. From 2:10 to 2:30 we had this. From 2:30 to 3 we had everything was scheduled in that practice to make the most out of that time, and then being being in college, you have to schedule. You got your classes, you got practice, you got this, you got that. 100% scheduling and discipline.
Oh, for sure.
Discipline, when you say getting up early, doing those things, typically discipline is probably doing the things
that you don't want to do.
Right. That that needs
to
happen.
That's when you grow. That's when, I realized when I don't want to be in here doing this is when I improve the most. So you're completely fatigued, right? Like, this is when I knew that I would get to a next level in boxing, okay? I would work out. I was so obsessed with not losing. I did not want to lose in front of all my friends and family, and everybody's there with a fucking picture phone, just put it on YouTube, waiting for you to get knocked out. They love you, they hate you, whatever. They want to see somebody get knocked out, right? Then maybe they love you, maybe they want to see you lose. That was always in my head, like, I'm not going to lose. So I would train in the morning. I would go to work. I would train at lunchtime. I would go train after, and then I would wake up in the middle of the night and go run in the rain. I didn't want to, but I was so scared that I would gas out. And I'm like, when you have muscles in fighting, they don't mix. Like, the best fighters in life are the dudes sitting across the bar that look like
bamboo,
just a average person with a beer belly, skinny arms. Nope, you know what I mean? Maybe they cut some cauliflower. That's when you stay the fuck away from them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But that's the type of person that's built to fight. Like, someone like me or you, we're husky, short, compact. Yeah, we're hard to take down and hard to wrestle with, but we're going to fatigue 100 times faster, because when you got all these muscles, all you're doing is building up lactic acid. And when that lactic acid hits you, man, you're just going to gas out real quick. Mm-hmm. So, I mean,
I think talking about running in the rain, I just thought about that. I think that's how we kind of started to get a little introduction, to each other, right?
Yeah.
Was that? So I think you had somebody that was rocking in our business, and I saw on your feed somehow that I saw before I ever met you. I saw you running at the track at night.
Yeah, it was like midnight.
And now knowing me, and we're like this.
Yeah.
That's my style.
Right.
That's what I'll be doing.
Yeah. So I woke up. I'm like, man, I don't feel like I'm ready for this fight. I do not want to go run in the rain, but I feel like I need to go sprint the stairs and run 5 miles. And then in my head, I'm like, I think I gained this much wind tonight.
Yep.
I'm that much more confident. And I did. I got better because of it, because I got more prepared mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Yep.
I was ready.
Yep.
And once you're ready in here, I mean, it's all 80% mental, everything.
No doubt.
And I mean, 20% is just going to be what you're doing,
no doubt.
Physically.
Can you pinpoint anything in business, and then maybe if anything coincides with owning a gym or people that you've trained with, anything stick out to you in the form of, all right, the people in business that have these attributes, they typically win. The people that don't, they typically lose. These are the people that I train with that stick out to me, that they won. Those people were good. These people that had these things, probably anything stick out to you as far as success habits or?
One word: consistency. So the people that win over a long period of time is because they have consistency. That's what I've seen. People may have a good week, a good month, but what are they doing the next week? What are they doing the next month? You know what I mean? I would see people come in there every day, get their ass beat, bust their ass running. I still have friends that do it, very, very competitively. They're consistent and they're great. They're doing great. People in this business, consistency is 100% the key. Like, let's just take our business, for example. You have a team that does real good for a month, right? They're doing great. Everybody's making money. And then everybody takes a week off because their bellies are full.
Made all that money.
Right?
Yep.
So then the next week, it shows in the report, all right, this team's down because they took a week off. Can't take any days off. You got to go. You just got to work. You got to be consistent, right? I think consistency is the number one key to anything. And if you do it long enough, you'll get out what you put in.
No doubt.
You know what I mean?
I think one of the things that I've watched you get better at, I think I in the beginning, I over talked about how much work it was going to be, how many hours it was going to be, and and all that stuff, because I don't want to be able to look at you and say, man, this dude lied to me. You know what I mean? So I was like, man, it's going to be like, we're going to boot camp, we're going to for 9 months, California in the sun. You know what I mean? And I watched you be able to handle the schedule and evolve into a point where you're a husband, you're a dad. I watch you holding on to your son. I watch you throwing pitches to Gia, and you're getting the job done, over here as well, and finding a way to do those things.
Yeah.
What advice would you give for people that are running a business, or getting into our business that may be in that situation as a business owner or starting a business? Maybe they're starting a business and it's not our business. But they're starting a business, and starting a business is what a starting a business is.
Right.
It ain't a 9 to 5.
It's a lot of work.
So even if you're open 9 to 5, it ain't a 9 to 5. You better go home and do something from 5 to 9.
Right.
But what advice would you give to them on how are you able to do that? We're always trying to improve at it, but what advice would you give for somebody that struggles with, finding a way to grow their business, but also doing what they need to do as a dad or as a husband?
Yeah. I'll bring up a quote from a mentor of mine. You met him, the person that I was employed with before I came here, Vic Olive. He would always say, Gregg, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And it always made sense. I'm like, dude, that hits home to me. Like, I love that. You know what I mean? Because it's true.
Truth.
Right? So in any business that you're in, I think that obviously you're going to have to put in a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of time. But you have to develop other people. Once you develop other people, you can start to delegate things. Okay? So I got lucky. I found some really good managers here early on in my career that I could start to delegate things to. So I picked, 3, 4, 5 people. I spent a lot of time with them at first. Weeks, and you know how bad I hate going out in the field. Like there's other things that I'd rather be doing. Right? But I would go out in the field with them for 10 hours, 2 hours away. I'm getting text messages from my wife and my daughter, where are you at? I'm in Slippery Rock in a trailer selling insurance.
Let's go.
Training somebody, duplicating myself into this person. Now I have, let's just take Mark, for example, Bernsdorf. Now he has a team of 7 people that he's training by himself. I don't have to do anything. Nothing. I just have to tell him what to do. And he goes and does it. And all these people, this whole group of people, he duplicated himself into. So now I'm just sitting back delegating like this. Like, good for you. Damn. You know what I mean? They're at my house last night till midnight. We're doing film review. I didn't even have to say anything. He's doing everything. I'm just chiming in. And he's correcting me now. So he's better than me.
Love it.
You know what I mean? Because I'm not doing
He's
a consistency.
One of those people that sticks out that has discipline.
Yes.
Right?
Division I
Discipline
football
and
player.
Consistency.
Sports, again.
Played at Pitt. Right?
Yeah.
Is this his first year out of school?
Yeah.
Right
He was a wide receiver for Pitt. Walk on.
Right out of school.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And killing it.
Yeah. Killing in this business. He'll make $150,000 this year. 25 years old.
Right out of college.
Yeah.
And the thing that sticks out is discipline, and he's not loud, not walking in the room, the loudest person.
Humble.
Not the loudest dresser.
Humble.
Just
super competitive.
Competitive, disciplined.
Super competitive.
Consistent.
Yeah.
Coachable.
Yeah.
Eye of the tiger.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. When
I
tell him good job, he's number 2. He's like, it ain't number 1.
Right.
It ain't number 1.
Yeah.
Love it, man.
Yeah. That's what sticks out to me.
So in closing, man, I would say what advice would you give to somebody that, because here's an area that I've watched you grow in majorly.
Mm-hmm.
And we still got a long way to go. So do I.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is what I've helped people coach others at is people say, well, how, these people get so emotional. First of all, you coming into a business you don't know, but business, you're going to be a little bit tense. You're going to be a little bit emotional. Right. Just like when I train, I can train jiu-jitsu. I can roll right now for 10 minutes and I'll be good unless the person is of extreme high level where I have to, just exert myself. But somebody in their first 4 or 5 years, I can roll 10 minutes now. You won't even, I won't gas.
Right.
When I first started boxing, 2 minutes.
You were like this.
I was gassed.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
You
nothing.
were so tense.
Don't care how tough inside I
Yeah.
am, or how, I was just gassed.
Gotta be
'cause I
loose, relaxed.
couldn't loosen up. And so, I tell people that, people that are emotional, the good thing about people that are emotional, because I'm one, is that when you can learn to control it, that emotion attracts emotion. That emotion creates emotion. That emotion attracts other people that are high intensity, high energy, things like that. Because very difficult to attract somebody if you're not like that person. Typically, like attracts alike.
Right.
And so one of the things that I've watched you grow in, I joked with you the other day. I said you went from a 0 to like a 5 or a 1 to a 5, but I think you probably went from like a 1 to a 7.
Yeah.
In your being able to handle the emotions. I think a lot like you're a baseball player. 1 out of 3 will put you in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
In this business, 1 out of 3 will put you in a really good spot. And in any given day, we're having great days, and in any given week, we're having a bad week, and we're having a good week. What advice would you give to somebody out there that has helped you to go from maybe not your biggest, probably one of your weaknesses, to something that's not a weakness really no more for you, almost getting to be where it's a strength, turning that around emotionally? How would you coach somebody that's like you or like me? Because somebody did it for me.
Right.
14 years ago, I looked a whole lot different than I do right now.
So there's several things, and this is all, coming from mostly you, because you can relate to me with this. We're the same age, got the same things going on. You've been through it already, so I've been blessed to have that. So thank you. But
I speak goofball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're
you
fucked
do.
up.
I'm a Neanderthal.
So am I.
You always call me
you're a
I am,
Neanderthal.
you know what I mean? But I have a lot of emotion. Like, all right, first thing I want to do, I just want to get physical. You know what I mean? Like, but you can't do that. In sales, it's an emotional roller coaster. You have a day where you can go out and make $5,000, and then you have 3 days where you go out and you make nothing. So that day where you made $5,000, you're way up here, emotional, so excited, and then you go way back down to like, I suck, I'm a piece of shit, like, what am I doing? So you have to just stay even. Don't get too high, not too low. I think everybody has to have a vice. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about alcohol or drugs. I'm talking about something physical, like go run, go to the gym. Whenever I'm stressed out, what do you tell me?
You're out of spirit.
I'm out of spirit. So you gotta read books, read scriptures. I was never really into reading scriptures or spiritual stuff. I believe in God, and I went to Catholic high school. I've been around it my whole life, but I was never that spiritual. Now I'll get up in the morning and I'll read scriptures on my way to the office, or before I leave. I'll read a book, audiobooks, podcasts. That's a vice. Yeah, so if you don't go to the gym, if that's not your thing, pick up an audiobook. Read. You just have to have some sort of vice to stay even. Patience too. I'm horrible with patience. When I want something done, I want it done now. I don't want to wait.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's my other
I tell you, don't lose that
downfall.
Right? You want to have aggressive patience.
But
aggressive patience. Fred Hadaya. Remember when we first? I took you to the top of his penthouse
in Florida.
With the Boston accent. When you say patience, what comes to my mind? He says, if I wanted patience, I would have been a doctor.
Yeah,
I don't want any patience either.
You guys want a cigar?
That's it. We just got to be able to manage that, and so I think Gregg, from my end of things, I was horrible at it. I mean, horrendous with all of that. All of that stuff. And, for me, I just learned to stay calm and think about 6 months from today and taking care of yourself, like an athlete. So an athlete, this gets downplayed. You gave him the answer, but the athlete that's out there, that's a professional, they're not just working in the gym. Before they go to work, they go to work. Before they get to the field, before they get to the gym, they have to recover. They're recovering. They're rehabilitating. They're working up. They're warming up. They're stretching. They're doing all these other things. They're hydrating themselves, right? And so I think in business, people lose that athlete in them. That's why we say business athletes,
right?
Because you have to keep that athlete in you and transition it over to business.
Amen.
People show up to the field sometimes in business, and this is why I think they pull themselves. They pull their spirit. Is they show up at business, and if the kickoff or the game or the fight is at 8 or 9, they don't have a sweat going. They're just showing up, right? The game starts at 9. We're just, here we go. We're ready. We put our clothes on. We're ready to rock. And so instead, what I've learned is in order to help a lot of people, the cool thing about helping a lot of people is a byproduct of that is you end up making a shit ton of money. But the more people that you help, the more people's lives that you're going to be responsible for, the more people's lives that are going to have problems.
No
you know,
doubt.
so
Yep.
I mean, today, you know, I'm starting out my day. I'm blessed to have 250 people. It comes up to me. I could already tell you within a couple of hours, I'm talking about somebody that their mom has a severe illness. That's a top player for us. Somebody else that we know is going to surgery, top player. Got Justin Torres Achilles. You know, he's in surgery right now. Hope that Jay's okay.
Trying to hoop.
You know, I built like a football player is trying to hoop. You know, so I have all these things going on, and all these things are going to happen by the time my game starts, by the time the fight starts. And the only way for me to balance myself that I've learned over the years is before I go to work, I got to go to work. And so I got to take care of myself spiritually, mentally, before I go. And even if you're somebody that works out in the afternoon, brush, you know how you brush your teeth? If you don't brush your teeth, your breath stinks. If you don't brush your spirit and your mind, those things are going to eventually stink too.
Right.
And if you're one person dealing with 10 people or something, it's going to be a little bit less issues for you. But if you want to help a lot of people, or you want to make $1 million or millions of dollars, you're going to have to deal with a lot of moving parts and a lot of people. And that's why people start to get issues with drugs and, you know, things like that, because they don't have an outlet. And so I just want to encourage you guys out there, you know, that are listening, because I know this is a big one that you could coach people on. A lot of people you know, this is probably 25-30% our company listens to this. It's 70-80% others. But if I could talk specifically to people in our company, you know, you're a lot more relatable to people than even me, because I'm 14 years in the game,
right?
And you're 14 months in the game,
and
so you're closer to where they're at, you know, right now, and I think they can pull a lot.
It's all about how you're coming off. Let's just say, for example, not to get off track, but then we can close it out. But let's say you're in charge of 250 people. You know, we have 400 people that are working here, but maybe 250, 300, whatever, are actually writing business.
Yep.
Okay? So let's say you come in this office and you're just an emotional wreck. You're stressed out. Real estate deals driving you crazy. Someone's suing you, whatever, and you're just miserable. Well, what do we always say? You're either a thermometer or a thermostat, right? So the thermostat sets the tone. It sets the temperature of the whole entire place. The thermometer just reads the temperature. So if you're 100 degrees, your team's going to be 100 degrees. They're going to be all fired up, right? If you're 50 degrees negative, you're just going to start pulling down from them, and it's just going to start trickling down the chain. So if God bless you, you're in charge of all these people, so you're not allowed to be down. You're not allowed to come in here and bring your problems.
No way.
I mean, you have to be on point, and I mean, you always are.
It's what professionals do.
That's right.
It didn't happen naturally.
Right.
You know, if you're a professional, if Tom Brady has an argument with his wife, you know, Giselle, day before, he don't get to come in and be negative during the championship game. You know what I mean? We got to come to play. Closing out, Gregg, I'll just say I have a lot of respect for you, man. For what you've accomplished here, and just for your mindset. I think, if I could say one big thing that sticks out that's different in you than the majority of people would be, I mean, a lot of things, but good and funny. But the main thing is how many people would be able to transition at 35, married with a child, into a business that is, solely depending on how you perform,
Mm-hmm.
and taking the risk to believe in yourself and believe in us and believe in what we're doing, to give up. You know, it wasn't like he was failing, you know, coming here. He was making $185,000. You know, Vic's a cool dude. I met Vic. Vic's a good dude. You were working somewhere where people liked you. It wasn't like, you know, we found you in a corner somewhere down on your luck. You know, we showed up and met at the Capitol Grill, and we both looked nice. You know, and so to have enough wisdom and foresight and vision and guts to step into the ring all over again. It was a different walk to this ring, but that's still probably a very similar feeling, walking out there and to have the guts and wisdom and vision to see what it is that we're doing right now and what we're getting ready to do. You know, in the future, takes a lot of guts.
It was hard. It wasn't easy. I didn't sleep for a month. Ask my wife.
You quit your first day.
I did.
Try to quit your first day.
I was in Britton's office, like crying, like I can't do this shit. I'm coming back. And you know, here we are, 15 months later. You know, I'll probably make $400,000 this year.
Yep.
God willing.
Come on.
Hopefully.
Come on.
But you know what I mean? Like,
I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you for the opportunity to have you on the ground. Thank you for the opportunity to be in your life, man.
Yes.
And we'll hear from you again soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Keep it up.
My
Keep
man.
grinding.